We issued a board letter, which is not a management letter. They're two separate things. So with the financial report, you would receive a board letter. If we found if there was a lot of findings and errors, and if we found that the internal control was not so great, then you would have received a management letter. But we're happy to report that there was no such management letter issued this year. And so we want to bring you aware of some future accounting and auditing issues. There's 4 new government audit standards that become effective in the next fiscal year. GASB 91 is about conduit debt. GASB 96 is about subscription-based information technology arrangements. GASB 97 is about component unit criteria. And GASB 99 is they call it an omnibus because it's a bus load of different things. There's like 4 or 5 or 6 different things that are going to go into effect in fiscal years beginning after June 15th, 2023, all related to financing, like leases, subscription-based information technology arrangements, private-public partnerships, and financial guarantees. Conduit debt obligations are when you basically co-sign debt for a third party. I don't think that's common in a lot of places. Subscription-based information technology arrangements are when you subscribe to like software long-term, and so you have a long-term commitment. And now GASB requires you value that liability as well as a right-to-use asset and show that on a full accrual basis if you are reporting on full accrual basis. So now I want to talk about a few best practices. These are all in the board letter that we provided with the financial report. We always remind the governing body that monitoring is a best practice. It's an integral part of the internal controls for an organization. You can do monitoring by asking specific questions, reviewing the financial statements and budget. And even though when you participate in the budget, that's only one part of your responsibility. You also have to monitor the budget and actuals throughout the year. And we recommend that you continue articulating what you do in your board minutes. Best practice number 2 is fidelity insurance coverage. And in reviewing your fidelity insurance coverage, we notice the district usually carries more cash than the insurance coverage amount. And when we see this, we see this often. We recommend that the board examine this risk and make a determination as to the appropriate amount of insurance you feel is prudent in regard to your oversight. And usually you'd want to talk to your insurance agent about the risk and your policies to manage your cash and protect against employee dishonesty. Number 3 best practice. During our testing of unrecorded liabilities, we saw some June liabilities which were accrued, but we didn't think they were recorded properly. The accrued liabilities were marked as paid in June, but they weren't paid until subsequent months. So there's an accounting rule that says if you haven't mailed the check yet by June 30th, you still have the cash and it's still in accounts payable. So we recommend all accruals be posted properly in the month that it's related to. And then there was one more best practice in the board letter about segregation of duties. And we noted that because of a limited number of personnel, it's not always possible to adequately segregate duties so that no one employee has access to assets and the records or to all phases of a transaction cycle. When this exists, there's a risk that there could be unintentional or intentional errors or irregularities, and they might not be promptly detected. So the one thing that brought this up is that we thought that the admin coordinator had full access to accounts payable and payroll. So we wanted to mention this to the board and remind you that it's one reason why you should continually monitor the activities to mitigate the risk that segregation of duties has in your work environment. And also, again, insurance. You should consider how much insurance you have if something goes undetected, and if it would cover any kind of unintentional or intentional fraud in your business processes. So that's my little presentation there.
You said you were going to expound on the $941,000 SDC issue. Can you?
Yes, I will do that now. So in our financial report here, on page do you all have a copy of this report with you?
I think you're looking for page 10.
Okay, here we go. Page 26 on the System Development Fund. This is the budget to actual schedule that we drafted. This is the standard format for this schedule. At the top, you have your revenues. It's presented differently than the budget. In Oregon budget law, you combine all your resources and compare it to your requirements. In the fund financial statements and the budget to actual schedules, you list your revenues first, followed by expenditures, then other financing sources and uses, and then at the very bottom you look at the change in your revenues, expenses, and other financings, plus the beginning fund balance to find the ending fund balance. And here for expenditures, we listed debt service of $941,523 and improvements and acquisitions of $330,000 for a total of $1,272,227. Down here in other financing sources, there was these columns are your budget columns. And we listed $710,000 in your budget for capital outlay and $941,525 in your budget columns for transfers out. And you can see right here that there was nothing budgeted for debt service this year. So let me pull in I have some notes. In the Oregon budget law, this is the Oregon budget manual. They recently updated this a few years ago, But on page 25, there's a paragraph about object classifications. So when you estimate your expenditures in each fund, they must be arranged by organizational unit or program. Within each unit or program, you estimate line item expenditures in the following object classifications: personnel services, materials and services, and capital outlay. It's permissible to combine these three amounts. So if you go over in materials and if you go over in personnel and you're under in materials and services, when you combine them, there's less chance that you'll go over budget. And they recommend that too, so you don't have to move your appropriations around a lot during the year if you have a really tight budget. And then besides these three, in addition, you have to have separate estimates made in each fund for special payments, debt service, interfund revenue transfers, operating expenses, and general capital outlays that cannot be allocated to one program unit or program. So getting back to this, in your resolution for 2022, you listed your 6 funds here, and the system development charge fund had one line item for capital outlay for 1.6 million. Well, upon further review, we determined that on page 35 in your line item budget, 710,000 of the 1.6 million was capital outlay, and 941,000 was budgeted in the transfer to loan service fund. In our audit, we looked at your actual spending, and a principal loan payment had been recorded for 670,000, along with interest of 271,522. So these are debt service line items. So you can't, when you record activity, you have to record it in the correct account. So what happened is that the mapping here is off because you budgeted a transfer per your line item budget of 941, but you were actually making debt service payments of 941. And that's why there's an issue here, is because you actually had debt service. You didn't transfer money to a different fund, but you budgeted it that way. In the line item detail. In the resolution, probably we could have put the 1.6 million all in the capital outlay line. But the preparer that did the audit, because the line item showed that part of this was capital outlay and part of it was transfers, he split it out this way. I guess there had been past practice was to combine all the money in this fund in one appropriation line. But the Oregon budget law says you can't combine all of the different objects, expenditure objects.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Does the board have any other questions for the auditor? Any other discussion?
Who is it that put this together? Who put the budget together last year? We did?
Well,
I mean,
staff puts
we
it
did.
together, we approve it,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Dawn on the budget committee, and then it gets entered in.
As a matter of fact, I called Jeff about this, and he had noted, I felt that the $1.6 million, and he only put the capital outlay amount, and which he showed up on the screen. And I said in the past, we'd always put it as one. And he mentioned about the difference with the loan service. If you go to our budget document that we use for the budget committee, we separated it all out. It was very clear. But in our resolutions, we didn't make it as clear. We combined it. In the future, we'll make sure that we don't combine it.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got a question. Is he still on? Are you still
Yes,
on?
sir?
Yeah, is there an issue with audits in general statewide on being able to provide them to the government entities in a timely manner? There's been a lot of questions by the public. Why don't you have your audit? How come it's taking so much time? Is that a situation that's happening with agencies throughout the state or not?
Yeah, we have quite a backlog here.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that there is a backlog, and it takes time to go through the reports. And I know we're working hard on getting ours out. If you go to the Secretary of State website, I could share another thing. Like if you want to see it. Let's see.
So how far back are you on, and is there different agencies that get a little more priority than other agencies? Because
Oh,
I know
yeah.
some have to have it done by a certain time by state law, such as school districts.
Correct. School districts, the Oregon Department of Education will withhold their general support to each school district from the school if the Oregon Department of Education does not receive an audit report.
So they would be a priority then.
Yes, and the state school fund general support for school districts it's pretty substantial for each school district. And so we put that the highest priority in our portfolio of clients. So that this Oregon Department of Education does accept draft audit reports. While if a final audit report can't be issued, but the draft has to be pretty good, like pretty close to being done.
Okay, so basically, some agencies are on the back burner until you finish those other agencies. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Because if the schools if they have their funding withheld,
Oh, I get it.
could be a very big impact on
Sure.
schools, kids, students
Sure.
mostly. And then there used to be a law where cities would have part of their gas taxes withheld, but the state legislature they passed a bill that said cities will no longer have their city taxes withheld if the audit report is late. So a number of cities were worried about having their gas taxes withheld, or part of their gas taxes withheld. But the state never really, I guess, I only know one client that had that happen for 1 or 2 months. And to repair streets, that's a safety thing. So I think that's why the state changed the law to not subject gas taxes to backup withholding for a late audit.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
ODE, they're very strict. And their budget, they have a 2-year budget usually, and they want information from every school district. And if the information isn't given to them by the end of December, they enforce and withhold money from each school district until they get their audit report.
Okay, anyone else on the board have questions for the auditor?
Are you gonna get to ask?
What's that?
Are there-
No, we're not gonna, just for the broadcast questions.
No, thank you.
Nothing else?
There is
Okay,
one more thing.
Yeah.
I guess if audit reports aren't filed and finished with the Secretary of State for a certain period of time, like I think it's 3 years, it could be more. If there's a pattern, a historical pattern also, the state could dissolve an organization. So when that happens, I don't really know the logistics, but I think the operations would be merged with another organization. Like a park district could become part of a city, or it could merge with another park district, or it could become part of the county. So, and my understanding is it takes 3 years of unfiled audit reports before the state starts really considering whether or not it should dissolve an organization and make the services be provided by another organization or a larger organization.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank
Thanks.
you very much for your presentation.
Mhm.
And I think we are done with the audit. Okay.
Excuse me.
All right, well, have a good night, y'all. So,
Do we have to approve
take care.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
I was going to ask staff, did we approve the audit specifically, or was that just for our informational purposes, and then we
Are we
glean what we need to from that?
You would approve acceptance of the audit
Okay.
as, you know, as presented,
Okay.
unless you have further questions or anything. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Well, I think we asked our questions. Is there any other discussion on the board level regarding the audit? Anything else? Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the audit as presented.
Okay. I'll second it.
Motion made and second. The second was Jason. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Okay. Okay, now we'll move into public participation. We do have some folks who have requested public participation before we get to our sign-in sheet. So first on my list here is Mike Kringland.
Getting to be a lot of familiar faces when I come back month after month.
And we are, if we can start the clock, everyone will get 3 minutes to present. Yep.
Okay, my name is Mike Kringland, Newburgh resident with my wife, and I just completed my 2-year term as president of the Newburgh Pickleball Club, as outlined in our bylaws. Even though I didn't seek re-election, I'm still very supportive of not only pickleball, but what happens within the city of Newburgh. First, we want to give thanks to Don and Casey for providing us a map of Jaquith Park with 2 rectangles representing the proposed sites for covered lit courts and additional parking. This location in the park is quite good given the irregular boundaries, which I learned about recently, existing courts, etc. Our goal is to work with Casey and Don as they move forward. At the site picked by the district staff, it can accommodate 6 courts with adequate spacing inside a pole barn. This 180 by 60 foot site could be slightly enlarged on the north side of this rectangle for the building to keep waiting players under cover with paddles queued and space to walk around without interfering with play in the 6 courts. Obviously, we don't want players waiting in the rain for 15 minutes or longer outside and then a court becomes available. Well, thanks also for our board rep Gail, staff person Julie, and to other board members who have said they would be supportive of adding covered lit courts. Our objectives for the Pickleball Advisory Committee are clearly outlined by CPRD with common objectives outlined including facility development, amenities and features, and equipment and maintenance. I brought a copy if someone wants to review this. I just have 3 short, easy questions. Number 1, Would the board expect us to work closely with Don and Casey to fulfill objectives outlined for us? Yes or no?
I think that'll be a further discussion, just
Okay.
provide your presentation, then we'll have
Okay,
that as a
fair enough.
discussion.
So we, one of the things that we want to ensure is to have appropriate dimensions. Ceiling height is a critical element in playing pickleball, and we want to be included as to the extent possible as part of the design. Number two, will this project be in the 2024 budget and advanced given the urgent need for covered lit courts? That's a yes or no, and is that something that...
It is.
It is in the budget?
It will be.
Oh, will be, thank you. And this one's for Casey, and I don't know if that it's fair to ask this one, but I'm just curious, what material would you envision for the sides of the proposed pole barn? Or maybe that's to be thought out.
That's to be thought out.
Okay.
We haven't got that far yet. I've been asking for budget numbers, basically.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Let me clarify something. The intent is to put it in the budget. That is the intent. It doesn't mean that it'll be approved because we don't make that decision.
Yeah, that's it.
So as long as you understand that, I just wanted to clarify.
But it's a big help that you put it in the
Right.
budget.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
Any questions?
I think a lot of that is discussion for another time
Okay.
and budget committee, so.
Fair enough.
But thank you very
We
much.
appreciate the recent efforts to get to this point. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, next we have Hunter Wiley.
I have handouts for the board. The only thing I'll be covering is the first sheet, the rest of it is supporting information. To your review.
So please make sure you're starting the clock.
My name is Hunter Wiley. I am a resident in Marion County, outside of the district. First thing I'd like to answer is your question, Jim, regarding the amount of audits that have been completed. I asked the Secretary of State that question. Of the 53 parks and recreation districts as of June, 9 had not submitted their audits, of which the district was one. The district's audit was completed 7 months before, but not submitted. My talk tonight is on financial transparency. There's a track record now of 2 years of the audited financials not being presented to the board, even though they're written to the board, making false and misleading statements about the status of those audits to the board, to the public, and the budget committee, not supplying the budget committee with accurate data for the years following the close of those fiscal years, and because there was no audited financials to present to them, it was being retained. The SDC funds, I'm glad that it got addressed. The preceding year that wasn't addressed also suffered from these same exact problems. I'm glad the auditors were here to make that presentation and clarify that. It could have been clarified 2 years ago. Intercepting and hiding and delivery of audited financials that are specifically addressed to the board only. The board owns the auditors. The auditors answer to them only. So I would hope in the future that the board would recommend, that would tell the auditors they are to submit all of the reports directly to the board when they are complete. They are not to go to the district. We now have a 2-year track record of those audits being withheld. Misrepresentation, need for increased SDC taxes. I've supplied the board some background information. The reason SDC rates are low is because interest rates are high, people aren't building houses, and those records that you had asked for in a previous board meeting, I provided to you that came directly from Yamhill County and were very easy to obtain. The last is the purchasing of the Dundee School. You're asking the taxpayers to buy a piece of property they already own. They paid for that property. I'm not against the projects. I'm against the taxpayers having to pay for something they already own. You can sell them the pool for the same logic. There are plenty of places I mean, you guys have looked at that place to build a community center. I don't recall ever seeing a community center or a child care facility in your priority budget meeting that you had to determine the priorities of the district. I think those need to stay, the ones you made. I don't recall, and when you're talking about this could be a community center and so forth, you've got a project right across the street that's been going on for over 5 years. It isn't even started. So you want to add another project? 0. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next we have Corey Burkle.
Good evening. My name is Corey Burkle. I'm the library director at the Newburgh Public Library. And tonight I'm here with a proposal involving historical documents located in the garage and outbuildings at the Bob and Crystal Riley Park Farmhouse. It's my understanding the Crystal Riley Foundation had hoped to have a living farm at the Riley property, and historic documents were compiled for that purpose. The eventual donation and purchase of the Riley farm has since moved the property in a different direction with CPRD. I've also heard the historical items were offered to the Oregon Historical Society but were declined. The library would be a perfect location to house the historical documents currently in the garage and outbuildings. The Newburgh Public Library houses historical collections specific to Newburgh and surrounding areas. Some of the materials are available for checkout, but most of the materials are for in-library use only and for research purposes. The library would like to house the documents in our library annex, a climate-controlled space, and with the help of trained volunteers and staff, catalog and make available the historical documents for the public as they are sorted through. For historical relevance, we would also like to house the Riley Foundation Meeting Minutes Notebook as they offer information about the property. While we are interested in the historical documents, books, and maps, we are not interested in the clothing, hats, household items, and legal documents housed in the spaces. Currently, the Parrott and Riley family historical documents are deteriorating in a damp garage space. Some of the documents are damaged beyond repair, but our hope is to keep as many as possible to preserve the history of our area. Thank you.
Thank you. And I believe we have that set for discussion later in the agenda. Is that true, Don?
Yes.
Okay. So we will pick that up later. Next, we have Steve Paulson.
I thought it was 5 minutes for the, if you were on the agenda. Did that get shortened?
Just the 3 minutes, yeah.
Good evening. This is not an interview, a back and forth. This is simply a statement. We are not reapplying for our committee seats as a golf course committee. We were asked by the board constructed on May 26, 2022 to form a committee and were selected by said board. These were to be 3-year terms per CPRD committee rules. We have been told by multiple sources that the current board is changing the rules of the committees now in order to eliminate, quote, troublemakers on multiple committees. CPRD leadership wants to silence people. We have asked for multiple motions to be made by the current board and for specific actions to be taken to improve Chehalem Glen Golf Course and have been denied. As one board member said, quote, a slam dunk for employees being allowed to accept cash and credit card tips. In the words of my good friend Tom Sheridan, as a committee we have requested several motions be brought before the current board for consideration to improve Chehalem Glen, with to date not a single motion being brought forward. That's a heads up to any potential future committee members that your time and effort will be wasted. One thing that we found that was huge, Bill Snow, a great man named Bill Snow. Snow, some of you may know him, he's a great big guy, he's got a beautiful dog. We found an extensive document, letter, and itemized list, this is all in here, produced by Bill Snow, a former Chehalem Glen Men's Club and handicap chair and respected member of our community. Quote, and the letters here, all the documents are here going back to 2018. Quote, a wise gentleman from Newburgh, Ken Austin, may he rest in peace, once said that CPRD will build a beautiful golf course and not maintain it. He was spot on. All these bullets that Bill Snow put together here, everything from hot dogs to former food menu items to taking parts from dilapidated golf course equipment and putting them to repair other ones, he laid it out beautifully. We weren't even told of Bill Snow. Bill attempted to do exactly what we have tried to do for over 18 months, make positive change. He was denied. He was called, quote, the biggest complainer in Yamhill County. And yes, I did speak with Bill directly. Don Loving, Don Clements, Kellen Saskin, Casey Creighton, etc. all knew about Bill's efforts, including suggesting to start a committee, and nobody said a word to our group. We wasted time that we will never get back. January 9th, 2020, asking for a ground plan for an additional 9 holes now exists, but no funding yet. Consideration would be for a permanent clubhouse. This is all in here. January 11th, 2018, work session item V. The board agreed that it was once a feasibility study on the golf course and clubhouse. Better wrap this up. Ken Austin was spot on when he said, quote, CPRD will build a beautiful golf course and not maintain it. However, this wise man's words also applies to every property that CPRD owns. Unfortunately, myself, our committee, and now this entire community has had to learn the hard way that our elected officials and leadership of this district has wasted our hard-earned taxpayer dollars and volunteer resources for over 34 years and counting. Clearly, after tonight, this community now knows that what must be done in order to change the direction of this district to a positive one. The leadership must be changed now. If this board is unwilling and unable to see this now after 34 years of ineptitude, then it's time to elect board members that will act positively for the hardworking citizens of this community. In the words of Daniel Caffrey from the classic A Few Good Men, we want the truth, but you can't handle the truth.
Thank you. Your time's up. Okay, next we have Jen Yan and Mark Brown.
Hello, my name is Jen. Last name is actually pronounced Yan. And I'm here with Mark Brown. He's the athletic director of Newburgh High School, and I am the president of the Newburgh High School Booster Club. The Booster Club is working on a project to improve the sound systems both on our field and in the main gymnasium. Both are in desperate need of replacement and repair. And we are seeking partnership with CPRD. We have a request for $50,000. The project is estimated to cost anywhere between $80,000 and $100,000 to do the repairs on those 2 sound systems. And I'm proud to say we have partnership secured this morning from our Noon Rotary Foundation. They have given us $15,000 towards our project. So. And if you're not familiar with Boosters, Boosters is the financial and vehicle that supports the students of the high school. So we don't just support athletics, we do everything. So anything the kids are into, we're there to support. So we're not your typical booster club where we're just doing football or we're just doing basketball. We do everything. We support the kids at FFA, we support the kids at dance. We're here for whatever the kids are wanting to participate in to enhance their experience at Newburgh High. So I'm hopeful that we can partner with CPRD for as much that our youth uses those 2 areas, our gymnasium and the fields, that we can come together and make a partnership and help get this project seen to fruition. It would be great if we could have it completed by graduation, which is a huge community event that is attended obviously by lots of family members, but is also streamed online. So that way our community can enjoy it. So hopefully we can get some support from CPRD and we can get the project completed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next we have Bob Travers.
I'm Bob Travers. I'm a resident at the Greens, and I have a little talk about what the golf course advisory committee had to deal with in the last year and a half. I was introduced to the proposed golf course by Don Clemens at one of the old-fashioned festivals years ago. He sold me on it, And since I have a love for golf, Don added that the clubhouse will be a positive addition to the community. Little did I know that it was not to be built, and instead a triple-wide prefabricated facility would take its place. When the golf course was opened in 2005, it was the most beautiful links that I've played for all the years that I've played. And Don sold me on it, less the clubhouse. Fast forward to 2014, my wife and I now live here at hole 7, and I almost gave up on seeing the clubhouse being built until I was offered a position on the new golf course advisory committee about a year ago. All the members on the committee had the same direction, improving our golf course, as well as seeing a promised clubhouse built. There was hope when the prospective new members of the board promised change if they were voted in. We assisted them and succeeded in getting them to win on the board. During the year, the committee took on the commitment to improve the conditions of the course, our committee, through the recommendations to the board. You've heard about what we were doing, but to no avail. Over the last year and a half, this committee has presented change to the board with respect to improving equipment, machinery, and starting in the next phase of the replacing triple-wide deteriorated clubhouse. Something changed. We believe in the new board members and were disappointed when they followed the superintendent and the staff recommendations. So what happened? A few months back at a board meeting, the proposed budget was voted on. We expected a new clubhouse to be placed in the top position of that list, but again, promises were broken. It went down to the bottom 10 of the list and would not be started for another 8 to 10 years. So the new clubhouse took a back seat to things like the developing of a new campground, purchasing Dundee Elementary School for daycare, building trails, bridges, and other things. Our frustration peaked when our committee was informed that we need to resign and reapply.
Wrap it up just in the next few seconds.
Okay. Our committee had it enough. We basically said we're not going to reapply. My perspective, shame on those of you for not listening to the citizens of this district, including us, promising things and then changing course to start new projects and developments, never looking back at what was promised and were broken.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, next I have, is it Julia Knightley? Kylie.
Just 2 seconds. The weather event we had a week ago, it would be nice if the website was updated in a timely manner for those of us who use the pool and the aquatic and the fitness center at 5:15 in the morning. It was not updated until well into 7 o'clock hour. So it would be nice if that could be done prominently, not dug down. I tried looking for the website that was cited on the telephone and got a Google search. Not an answer for where the closures were. Thank you.
Next we have Fred Robinson.
Yeah, I am Fred Robinson. I live in Newburgh. I've lived in Newburgh for about 40 years. And I really wanted to talk tonight about the SDC. I see that's farther down on your agenda, but I want to comment specifically on the SDC and this board's management of the SDC over time, and compliment you for renewing the, I'm not sure the right terminology, but basically for renewing the SDC at current levels, although it's my recommendation that you continue to increase the rates of those the SDCs over time. Status quo is usually down. It's hard to maintain the status quo. The former board, and as I say, I compliment you for continuing the SDC level, but that's such an important tool and needs to increase over time as all other costs and all other values increase. About 30 years ago now, Yamhill County had a very positive, viable system development charge that was intended to maintain infrastructure in Yamhill County. And they passed an ordinance in 2001. The ordinance was Ordinance 695 in 2001, which implemented an SDC charge. And of course, this applies to all building outside of districts, outside of school districts or other fire districts. It was a very progressive board, and then the board changed and they came along. So they actually implemented that SDC in 1998. A new board in 2001 killed that SDC and by ordinance refunded the money that had been collected from builders during that time period. When this was discussed before this board about 2 years ago, the county came and argued against updating the SDC. And I pointed out at the time that think how different the county health financially would be had they not repealed that. Look at all the building that's gone on here in the last 20, 25 years, and all of that would have been contributing its fair share to, in this case, county roads. And I see I'm out of time, so again, compliment you on renewing the system development charge and urge you to continue to update it over time.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next we have Don Paulson.
Just have a couple of pages for you guys. And these are just right out of the budget. I just made it easier so that nobody would have to look anything up.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. You're welcome. Okay, so after hearing the conversation last meeting about CPRD's interest in buying the Dundee Elementary building, I wanted a few things to go down on record. And this goes back to the overall culture of maintenance or lack thereof at CPRD. If you look at what Newburgh School District budgets for the building and ground maintenance at Dundee Elementary, we can see that they have budgeted about $271,000 a year. That's great news because we already know how much it's going to cost to maintain this property. Here's the problem. I went back and found that the most CPRD has ever spent on yearly maintenance and repairs district-wide was in 2015 and 2016 when they spent $274,000 outside of the golf course. CPRD owns over 1,000 acres and maintains over 77,000 square feet of buildings and has spent at the most $274,000 a year maintaining them. Do you expect anyone to believe that you will double your maintenance budget if you purchase Dundee Elementary? Because if you don't double your budget and you know how much you should, you have no intent of maintaining yet another property. These budgets are public information, and I know, Jason, you're all in on this purchase. If any of you spent any time looking into this data that's publicly available to you, you should have seen this as a red flag. This district has a maintenance culture built on decades of allowing property and assets to fall into disrepair. Just look around at the proof. The preschool building should be condemned. The golf course has cockroaches. The playground equipment is rusty and broken. The bathrooms at the parks are scary and disgusting. This is not the fault of the employees that work at CPRD. They don't make budgets and they just do what they're told. The current leadership, who has been here for all of those decades, is responsible. You've been all here so long, there's no one else that you can blame but yourselves. Dawn, Casey, Julie, Kat, Jim, Heidi, running finance, who might as well have been given an abacus when you look at the budget. Despite the community need, if this board approves this purchase, they might as well light $3.5 million on fire. You can't start new projects with this leadership. Until the leadership of CPRD is changed, you'll be wasting all of our taxpayer dollars on something set up to fail. If you want to talk about legacy, your legacy is decades of resources squandered and ignoring issues the community has raised for years. I'm tired of wasting time and energy on feasibility studies that go nowhere to buy land or properties this district has no business purchasing. So get real, look at yourself in the mirror, and don't buy another thing you and we all know you will not maintain until there are people in leadership ready to take on the next era of CPRD.
And last but not least is Mayor Bill Rosacker.
Good evening. I am Bill Rosacker. I'm the mayor of Newburgh. A few meetings ago, I came in and I asked you to make 2 changes to your SDCs to partner with the city to improve affordability and housing in Newburgh. I can't tell you how disappointed I am that you didn't even act, didn't even study the issue. I talked to the superintendent. He told me that it was up to you guys, the board, and you have never even discussed it. So that being said, I now want to speak as Bill Rosacker, citizen of Newburgh and representative of the voters in Newburgh. I see that you supposedly updated your SDC fees. In actuality, what you did is you took the 2017 version and cut and pasted new numbers into it in some of the charts. Nothing else was changed in it. You did not hire the same consultants to come back. The first line in it says that it was produced by those consultants. I would bet, well, I don't know for sure, but I'm guessing that the consultants never saw those numbers. SDCs are interesting charges. It's very complicated, but the gist of it is SDCs can only be used to pay for new construction. Not only that, it can only be used to pay for new construction that are caused by the increase of population that pays the fees. You've had an item on for trails in the city of Newburgh for $80 million, 18 miles of trails, now since 2017. With your regular increases that are done not by you, but by the Seattle Trade Journal, that figure is well over $120 million that, according to your documents, you're going to spend on trails in the city of Newburgh, 18 miles of trails. The reason that I suspect that that $80 million figure is in there is because the amount that was originally attributed to the SDCs, in other words, the cost eligible, that amount that pays for the new construction caused by new residents is $26 million. That's the fee that I bet you intend to collect. That is the fee that you are collecting, and it goes up every year. It's well over that $26 million now. Where is that money? Well, you've been collecting these fees since 2018 or 19. There should be well over $10 million in the bank to pay for that particular trail. But it's not used for that. You are using that currently to pay services on debt. If you look at the last item on your agenda,
If you could wrap up that time.
right. If you look at the last item on your agenda, you will see that it states that the general fund in previous years has transferred money to pay for the debt service to the loan service fund. We are now paying debt out of the SDC fund. I'm not a lawyer, but I'm pretty sure that's not legal, according to the Oregon revised statutes that allows you to charge SDCs. I highly recommend that you 5 board of directors consult your attorney to see if these charges are proper. I don't think they are.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. So we're going to make a little adjustment to the agenda here, and we're going to address the request from the Newburgh Boosters and then the library. before we move on to other items. And then we'll take a quick 5-minute break for anyone else who wants to exit at that time. So the library, do any of us have any questions regarding the Crystal Riley Park, the documents being stored in the library annex?
I'm pretty familiar with those documents. Back in the day, we went through all those documents. In fact, you had a lot more documents that you enjoyed going through in the garage, as I recall. But anyway, I think that's being able to, unless staff has something to say about that, I think being able to protect those documents is important, and I appreciate the folks at the library looking towards doing that. That's just my view on it.
Yeah, I think it's just concerning that they're potentially, not
Damaged.
being cared for, damaged right now, so.
As far as I mean, I checked on it. There
Yeah.
was humidity in the garage, yeah.
Right.
Obviously. but-
Not a climate control.
So, I mean, is the folks that were on the foundation, are you guys supportive of this idea? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm Deanna
Good.
Kemp. I'd be happy to help the library since I was on the foundation board and put the documents in that room. I'm happy to help if needs some assistance.
Is it possible that if, in fact, we were to turn these documents over and someday we were to renovate this space and we had a spot that we wanted to use some of these documents, would we be able to get those documents so that we could display some if there was a need for that? Will it be possible to get those back?
So as far as I'm concerned, what would be best for us would be scanning a lot of those documents. Some of them that are quite old and brittle, they're not going to last long anyway. So having scanned resources allows people to also keyword search it too. So I don't have any problem with if someday Riley Park becomes a historical space like it was proposed a long time ago. I don't think there's any problem with doing that. Yeah.
I'd like to speak to that. I was a member of the St. Paul Michigan Historical Society Board of Directors for 30 years. We had this exact same problem, which we dealt with in other historical societies. You have to scan the documents. The stuff that was refused by the Oregon Historical Society is normal because they have no place to put the stuff. You scan them. We hired students to do that.
Yep.
Mr. Chair, I don't think this item's on the agenda, so I'd recommend it be added to a future agenda.
Future agenda.
If you're going to talk about it or make any decisions.
Okay. Yeah, I believe it was included in the packet, but it was just included as a public comment. So we'll probably, can we discuss it and then make a decision at a future meeting? While we have the presenter here?
You can ask questions of the presenter, but I don't think you can deliberate towards a decision unless it's on the agenda.
Okay. Okay.
Is that true then too of the other requests?
Yes.
Okay.
The next one we have would be the Newburgh Booster. So
Right.
while we have them here, we'll ask questions and
Yes.
then we'll put it on the agenda for decision making. Okay. Any other questions regarding the documents being moved to the library? No. Okay. All right, so let's make sure we put that as an action item for the next meeting. Okay, and then also, as we just discussed, the Newburgh High Booster Club request for funding. Any questions any board member has while we have the folks here?
For Julie, I'd like to ask, CPRD uses those PA systems on
We do. For youth football games on Saturdays in the fall, we definitely do. And lacrosse games as well in the spring.
Could the staff bring a recommendation back to the board at the next meeting?
We'll put it on the agenda.
That'd be great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any questions to direct to the folks presenting here? Okay.
I have a question.
Oh, you do.
Let's say we didn't do it this year. Like, how urgent is this? Is it?
It's fairly urgent. We would actually have to do some temporary repairs. So we have, I would say, approximately $12,000 to $15,000 in temporary repair that would need to be done in order for it to be truly functional, just to get us through.
'em.
through immediately. Um,
immediately. Um, just to get us through immediately. 'Cause I have actually a question. Let's say we didn't do it this year, like how urgent is this? Is it?
It's fairly urgent. We would actually have to do some temporary repairs. So we have, I would say, approximately $12,000 to $15,000 in temporary repair that would need to be done in order for it to be truly functional, just to get us through immediately. obviously that would be unfortunate because that's quite a bit of volunteer hours that goes into raising those funds, but certainly potential.
So the total ask is how much?
Our total project cost is estimated between 80,000 and 100,000, and we're requesting 50,000 from CPRD for partnership in that. The Booster Club has money that we are prepared to commit, but we are seeking some partnership with the Rotary organizations and CPRD in hopes that we can continue to honor our grant requests for the clubs and teams that will continue to need. So we have funding, but we prefer some partnerships so we don't have to deplete all those funds available to the kids.
Yep.
How much will the Booster Club be putting in?
I kind of put pen to paper today, so I'm 10,000 to 25,000, and it really just depends on our partnerships that we're able to secure.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and we do have our largest fundraiser of the year coming up in March, on March 16th. So kind of depending on how how the partnerships come together before then, that project would either be presented as our paddle raise to completion, or that would be our opportunity to announce that that we were able to do that outside of that paddle raise, and we can work on another project, which we're looking forward to doing some improvements to the baseball and softball field. So that's kind of hopefully we can conclude the project together before that.
Julie?
And Jen, did you say that Rotary have pledged 15,000?
They did, yes, and that's the Noon Rotary Foundation. I have approached and spoke with the early bird Rotarians as well, so
that's awesome.
We're on their agenda too.
Okay. Anything else before we move on? Okay. We're going to take a 5-minute break, and we will return right at 7:15 and start back up then.
Thanks, you guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. No.
You're welcome.
Sorry, I'm not good at this, but I like that one.
It does too much as far as some of the things that have happened on
Okay, we are going to call the meeting back to order. If everyone can take their seats. Oh, turn our mics back on. I'd never say anything.
Okay.
Okay, it is 7:15 and we are back in session. And our first action item is to approve the budget committee. My understanding is the committee is the same folks as before because they're all in the middle of their term, or?
No.
Okay.
We will have one person decided not to reapply.
Okay.
So they basically will not. So you will appoint one in February.
Okay, and so what's the process for advertising for new applicants?
We'll start advertising next week and have application deadline to be in time the week before the next board meeting so that you'll be able to appoint in February. And that's an open application process, so we'll advertise it.
And then are applicants encouraged to attend the meeting for appointments? Yeah.
They're not, there's no specific encouragement in that.
Okay.
No requirement.
Okay, understood. Okay. So is there anything for us to do tonight, just to approve the existing members, or just an update for us to know that?
Well, of the existing members, 2 people term expires. So you could appoint up to 2 if you so chose. One member said that they would like to return.
Okay.
Who are the 2 members?
Elijah Dixon, but the one who will not be returning is Andrew Yinger.
Okay.
Okay, any discussion from the board or any?
Just a question. So, I mean, do we have to approve all of them at the same time, or can we approve the existing ones and then in February approve the final person that's gonna apply for the position?
You can do it either way you so choose. We'll put it, again, it's been on the agenda, so you can approve the ones that we have now if you so desire. And then we will advertise for the other position.
Okay.
That's left up to you.
Well, if you want to do that, you have to make a motion.
I'll move that we approve the people
4.
the 4 folks that were on last time that are still interested to the budget committee.
My preference would be to wait and see what advertising brings in, but that's for no reason at all. I mean, if we're voting on it next time anyways, that would be my
I was just thinking that the folks that are actually going to do it, I mean, we're going to start getting stuff soon, and then just letting them know is why.
So there is logic to it.
A
Okay.
motion has been made. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Motion's made and second. So any further discussion on appointing the current members now versus waiting? No? Okay. All those in favor of the motion at hand, say aye.
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 All opposed?
Do you have the dates? You have the dates already set for that, correct?
The calendar.
Yes.
Okay,
It's
so they'll
in
know and they can clear their schedule to make sure.
Yes, it's on the website
Okay.
of all the dates for the budget committee hearings and all of that.
Thank you.
And we send out, once you appoint, we send out a letter to each one, including you. So,
Okay, our next item is approved bid, and I'm assuming this is for the multiple,
The debris hauler, the
Okay.
leaf
I got a question on that. Do you already have that?
No, that did not, does not, that didn't exist in the district.
So it hasn't been purchased yet.
Oh, do we own that? Yes, we do own that.
So it has been purchased.
Right. An example of the availability and having to get on Sourcewell and get those ordered to,
So it's like an emergency situation, you have to get that delivered before we approve the bid? Is that what you're saying? Okay. I have one other question for that. Is that gonna be hauled behind a truck?
it could be, yeah, you've probably seen them on, the landscape companies have when they're lighting up, it's pulled behind the existing dump trucks. It's got a canopy on it. You can suck up, I don't know.
So when we do, but we won't be able to take it on the parks when it's really wet with those
Yes,
leaf
it
rows?
will. It can also pull behind
With a tractor?
And in great use of the golf course as well as on the parks.
Okay.
Will, super productive and reduce manpower, but just the availability of that reduces the amount of time we spend on leaf season.
Yeah, I can see the difference between a backpack blower and this big thing, yeah, I get it.
Yeah, it's a.
Still a combination.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, any other questions on this, on these purchases?
I'll move that we approve the bid for the, how do we, the Little Wonder Briggs 35 horsepower tow behind, is that what you want me to say?
Love to hear you say that.
It's a bid for $16,631.08.
I second it.
Okay, a motion is made and second. Any further discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay. Okay. Next, we have recurring item here, approval of the submitted committee rules. I know that this was a discussion item we've had for a couple different meetings. In the last meeting, we wanted to have legal take a quick look, make sure everything was kosher, there wasn't anything legally problematic or contradictory in there, and my understanding is that was done. You were able
Yes,
to take a
correct.
look? Okay.
I think it looks fine.
Okay. Okay, I know we've discussed this one quite a bit. I think it's great timing, especially since we're now, advertising for committee positions. I think it's good to have rules in place. So, is there any further discussion on the board regarding these committee rules?
I just want to
Recommendations?
thank you for doing a good job of that.
Yeah.
I appreciate it very much. I move that we approve the committee rules as presented in our board packet.
A second?
Yeah, I'll second it.
I already did.
Oh, you did.
Yeah,
Excuse me.
sorry, I beat
thought you
you.
were asking for a second.
I beat you. Okay, a motion
Okay.
made and second. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor? Aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay. Okay. Next is recreational immunity letters of support. Staff, I'm assuming you have something to share on that, or is it just covering that and then issuing our approval for the letter that was prepared, or?
That's correct.
Okay. Is there any updates on potential legislation? Anything in the court?
Right here.
Okay.
Recent court decision has led to closure of some Oregon parks and recreation properties. Insurers urging closures due to liability. In all Oregon, Oregonians at risk of losing access to trails statewide. In order to make sure citizens can enjoy trails and parks this year, we need an immediate solution to this problem. We must adjust Oregon's longstanding recreational immunity statute to ensure legislature's policy goal in ORS 105.676 is realized.
Casey, can you use a mic, please?
That states, it is public policy of the state of Oregon to encourage owners of land to make their land available to the public for recreational purposes, for gardening, for woodcutting, and for the harvest of special forest products by limiting their liability towards persons entering thereon for such purposes, and by protecting their interests in their land from extinguishment of any such interests, or the acquisition by the public of any right to use or continue the use of such land for recreational purposes, gardening, woodcutting, or the harvest of special forest products. So their solution is to assure that accessing trails is in itself recreation, and expand the list of recreational activities to include walking on a trail. Clarify that improved trails have the same immunity, and address now or later question intent of the user. So that all came about a case, someone traveling to a recreational site, is that trail considered recreation in itself? And that's kind of the whole gist of it.
And so these letters of support are all, they're just encouraging
Encouraging
everybody
legislation
to change it.
that changes things so that park districts and cities and places people recreate are safe and are gonna be liable for anything that occurs.
Now,
I
you can
think-
still be liable.
Exactly.
If we are
we don't-
negligent in maintaining
Right.
Exactly.
the trail, but just so the public knows, I'm gonna go ahead and take a walk through Jake With Park to get to the other side. I'm not going there for recreational purposes, I'm just taking a walk.
If they get hurt on
And
the
if
way.
they decide to trip whatever, they can, sue you. So it's like, everything's, up in the air. So I think it's super important for all cities, districts, so on, to really,
We mentioned, the board was asked to submit a letter. I asked the Trails Committee that there's no law against it, you can't send it as an individual, but they can't represent the board. So, that's kind of their request.
So, and then these letters would be signed by the board, like
Yep.
Matt would just sign it? Okay, cool.
I think the letters would be signed by the chairman
Yeah.
as well as
Chairman
myself.
and
Yeah.
I think
the
we're
whole board.
mentioned in the letters.
It's got it in your board packet. We've
Yeah.
got all the
Yeah.
letters that we're going to send.
Okay. And is there, do we know if there's any other litigation or appeals on this, or we're just trying to pass legislation to
Yeah.
reverse it? Okay.
To clarify.
Okay, any other discussion on this particular issue?
No, other than the person that did this lawsuit, their last name was Fields, and they are not related.
We were gonna see how you vote, man. Do we need to make a motion here?
Yeah.
So I make a motion to present the letter as written.
I'll second it.
Jason got it. Okay, motion made and seconded. Any other discussion? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. Okay, next we have Bob and Crystal Riley Park feedback. Assuming there's some background on
Yeah.
documents here. Focus group?
Yes. So the focus group was reconvened, I think, after we got changes made to the master plan that the board requested. We brought the focus group back together after John got it completed. And included in that, we did an emergency plan for like paramedics, fire trucks. So I've been reached out to TBFNR. And so we brought the focus group back together and showed them the master plan and gave them the ability to make comments, more comments on the master plan. And we pulled out some of the things that were reoccurring. Some of it's pretty technical and some of it's probably, when you do specific areas, you might need to do some engineering in that area, so it won't show up on the master plan. It's just a general plan of what's going on. So we received lots of comments back, and I would appreciate if the board reads through all these, and we'll bring this back to you in February. But what I went through and did was kind of summarize the comments, and John Champlin, also from NV5, went through. So there's kind of a summary, and then the good, the bad, the ugly, and then everyone's comments unnamed in a document that proceeds that. And then NV5, John's just got this to us today, so I haven't even really had a chance to read through it. But I can read a summary of common themes. The Oak Savannah was pretty much appreciated by everyone, and there's questions on trails throughout that Oak Savannah.
Quick question.
Yes.
In regards to this Oak Savannah,
yeah.
Tell me exactly where did this come from? And the reason why I ask is because if this was from the questionnaire that we received?
It came up when in the initial meeting of at the Cultural Center for the Riley Master Plan. It's been discussed since we bought the property. It's a kind of a restoration of ecological type lands for that area, heritage lands. And it was pretty much approved by just about everyone that made comments on it. And just, what's that?
Except for one.
Well, except for one maybe. 1 out of 7.
I think, go ahead, Casey.
Trail surfacing was discussed, and the expense of all that trail surfacing, and there are places not identified that could potentially need to be improved greater than what the trail surfacing would be, boardwalk type stuff, or and whether or not we could ever make it 4 seasons in certain areas. There might be some closures at certain times. And how long this is going to take, phasing, that type of thing. Future trails, there really isn't any future trails on the master plan. It is documented as laid out, and there's possibilities in certain areas that improvements could be made over time, using less gradient, kind of running along contours instead of up and down contours. So that's kind of what Russ is good at. But we've identified certain areas that would benefit from that. Manure pit, that was not a hit with equestrians in the thing. They didn't feel that was necessary because standard practice is remove your own and take it home or do whatever. Auto gates, expensive, but then so is having a full-time, unless you can find somebody to live in a house and kind of monitor the park and do that kind of thing. So these are all things that came up. There was comments about excluding bicyclists. There was comments about certain shelters, particularly the one up high on the property, the highest point, that would be a viewpoint. Mentions of horse corrals, horse camping area, camp hosts, an obstacle course for revenues type activities up there. Off-leash dog area was mentioned quite a bit, as far as location and small dogs, big dogs, how big.
Is the idea to fence that in?
Yeah, you pretty much have to fence it in. Kind of similar to what we have at the dog park, but there's lots of open land up there that wouldn't be too much of a problem, I don't think. Doesn't necessarily have to be flat, but it's better. Signage was mentioned a lot, and road crossings, Obviously, where they are now, there was some other potential ones that we could put in there. Bob's Corner is kind of an issue, but at the same point, you can see both directions if you're walking. You can see that way and you can see that way. And cars don't tend to be going very fast around that corner. So, and
I
then.
think it's more coming up Casey, where
One-
you kind of pop up over that hill.
Yeah, and,
to go. I think it's-
and, well, there's one right now, right at the corner, which is okay. And also one was mentioned down at the, well, kind of the, where the entry to the winery is, JK Carrier for equestrian. So, that was that, and I won't go over the whole thing, because it'll take me forever. But you have a month to read through it.
And because this occurred before I was around, what's the makeup of the focus group? How was it formed? What?
It was just people that we picked out that have very diverse interests. Some engineering, some equestrian, some, well, Matt wasn't one of them. Brian Bowman was on there.
There's the woman that does
Dana was on there.
Hope was on there too.
Yeah,
Hope
Hope,
Robertson.
Yeah, she's great.
So just a very diverse group of.
Wasn't it, I
John
think,
Globig.
did they come though from,
Cindy
like, when
Riggs.
we'd had a group, it was a
Yeah.
committee, it was from that original committee that was
Yeah,
years ago.
some of them were
that was formed
parts
to
of the
look at
committee.
the whole thing, huh?
She wasn't.
She wasn't?
No.
You're talking about the Crystal Riley.
Was when we were gonna first start
Committee.
the committee and the master planning and that, and what could happen up there, so.
So we used some committee members, and we used some people that were new to the property and were equestrians or, knowledgeable about parks and trails and that type of thing. I think that's all I really had on that part.
So we'll be delving into this and having more discussion next month.
Yeah, and
Because this, we
it-
just saw it today.
Exactly, and the point is that the committee did the work, and you can kind of review what the committee said and form your own opinions and decide what you want to do. The plan is not finalized. And did you print, you didn't print out, if you guys need copies of the master plan itself? And I also put something together. Maps are in the packet, but if you want better maps, we can get better maps for you. I did.
Casey, you said the master plan is in this packet?
No, just the maps.
The maps are.
The
I'd
master
like-
plan's really big, but you can ask Kat and show.
Then there's,
Okay.
like, you can get bigger copies than this, but they're colorized and so they're pretty easy to read. And the details are in the environmental study that they did and forthcoming because they haven't put the document together, the written document that forms the basis of the master plan. So there's a lot of things you can discuss in the written part of the master plan that can kind of phase things and give you costs and different options. So that will be forthcoming. And all these will provide the basis for that.
Was anywhere in there, was there an arena riding area covered?
Yeah, I think I mentioned that.
Okay.
No covered riding arena.
Nothing covered.
But I know the neighbor is building one.
That won't be open to public. I can guarantee that.
Well, he wants use of our trails.
A little different clientele.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so this will be coming back on the agenda, and then let's also add to the agenda, it's kind of piggybacking this a bit,
Oh, the museum.
well, I wanted to see if we, at least we'll have a discussion item next time on kind of resurrecting the Crystal Riley Park Committee, have a committee like there was in the past that's specific to this, since it's such a large item, so many facets, might be helpful. But sorry if I interrupted you on that. Was there anything else you
No,
want
I-
to share on? No?
I think that was all I wanted to share on that.
Okay.
Have you had questions, or is that?
Well, let's check with the board first. Any questions that the board has?
You know, I really don't want to make any opinions until I see the whole
Yeah.
project, and then I can, go from there. So once I see everything together, then I can make some comments.
And is it gonna be like you either approve the whole thing, or is it gonna be that there will be certain, like, you could say, this seems to be well thought out and everybody seems to approve it, like, or want that, or there's other pieces? There's a lot of stuff in here. There's a lot of stuff in here, and it's awesome that
Well,
everybody got together
We
to
got
do
just
it.
as many
but-
comments the first time. So, and
Yeah.
we used those to form the basis of this.
Right.
But I think what she's asking is, we don't have to accept the entire master plan or nothing, right? We have the ability as a board to go through.
Well, if you don't want to accept it, then you don't approve it.
Well,
But it doesn't mean that we're necessarily doing every single thing. That's, I think.
That was my
Yeah,
question.
go ahead.
It's important to point out that a master plan is simply that. It's a revolving thing, in that it's not set in concrete. The master plan must alternate and change as time goes and as situations develop. To approve something and say, well, this is all we're going to do, almost handcuffs you and doesn't allow you to move. I think it's important to have one so that there is direction given, but also recognize that it's not set in stone. It can change and actually should change.
Thank you.
Did that?
Yeah, that's good.
Any other questions? Obviously, this is to be continued, but we have a question now? Okay. Okay, moving on to the SDC resolution. We'll have an open time to discuss at the next meeting. Okay, SDC resolution. Don, I think you wrote something up for us on that.
Yeah, I just wrote it up saying that you guys would make the decision on all SDCs, I think is what it says. Gave the dates that we had done the others. And if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
I have a question. That's for council though. And it is in regards to, can we change what we're doing here? Can we change the fact that we are, we're going to make it to where we are going to vote every single year as to whether we're going to raise our SDCs? Can we do that in this meeting, or is there, because I was told by somebody as they were walking out the door that if we vote on this, we're potentially setting ourselves up to be liable and be sued.
For what?
For what?
So, okay, so I'll set the table a little bit more. So the item that we have is to actually vote on the increase, so the inflationary increase. Previously, that wasn't voted on, it was just automatic.
The previous board had said that it is an automatic.
Right. So we had that discussion at the last meeting, decided that we wanted to actually, because it is a tax of sorts, that we actually wanted a vote on that, whether it be increased or not. And so go ahead and finish your question. I'm just.
Yeah, so I was told that we have to redesign how we do our SDCs if we're going to do this. I don't know if that's a phony statement or not, but since we have.
I think that maybe what they were talking about is just that you can't change the methodology for how it's been calculated.
Right, which we're not doing.
You're just, you can approve or disapprove every year.
Yeah.
You can just say this year we're not gonna do it, maybe you do it the following year, but, yeah, you shouldn't, right? I mean.
So, I'm not fully prepared to answer that question. I can say that if the board had authority to designate a CPI effective inflation index, certainly the board has authority to undesignate.
Right.
but I would need to look at the statute on SDCs a little more to make sure. The public comments of the issues that were raised were a little, I understood those to be slightly different, and I don't.
And they were, this was a separate conversation I had in the other room.
So it's something I'd be happy to look at, but I'm not able to advise on that right at this moment.
If that's the case, then I don't think that we should vote on our SDCs.
Well, we voted on the FCCs last time, didn't we?
Yeah.
To approve it, right? And
I
this
think
is
we-
just about whether we're gonna do it every,
Yeah, this is only addressing the inflationary increase. That once was automatic and now we have decided that it is
You
an
have
up or
control.
down vote, which I couldn't imagine would be an issue, but what he's saying is that an issue? Is it an issue? Are we allowed to, as a board, vote on that automatic inflationary increase?
or annual?
To remove it.
To,
Yeah.
And I'm saying I don't
Yeah.
know the answer at
Right.
this moment, I apologize.
So, if that's the case, I'd suggest just bringing it back to the next meeting, so we're certain that we're able to make that.
I'm
The
happy to
met-
look at that, and
The
also-
methodology is designed so that you can do an annual increase if you so desire. The prior board said, don't bother us. Well, that's not a fair, but just do it. Just do it each year. Then I talk with our attorney concerning that, and I felt that transparency was bigger and important. So each year I brought it and was told, why are you bringing it? Just do it. And I felt that the transparency should be there. So we brought it. This says, the resolution that I did says that I will each year do what I've done anyway each year. You, each year, you can decide to increase it or not increase it.
Yeah,
So that's what it's concerning.
okay. So we'll get a legal opinion, and then next month we will, in fact, act on that, if everyone's in agreement with that.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, moving on. Dundee Elementary School. Don, I'm assuming you have an update for us on that?
Yeah, I recommended that we continue, but I want to say this, that I do not think we can afford to do it. If we'd have got some money, it would have made a big difference. We were looking at 2.3 million to 1.5 million. Then it was discussed 1 million, and it wound up being nothing.
And when
I
you
don't-
say those dollars are ARPA funds
Right.
that the county.
And I don't think that we can afford to do it. But given that, the reason I would recommend that we continue to do it is, what happens if the school district doesn't get a buyer and they want to declare that surplus? It's possible, not probable, that they would give us the building. But I know.
It's been done
but
before, remember.
I'm dreaming, but I've dreamed before and it's happened, so we can wait. That would be the only reason. Otherwise, I'd recommend that we not proceed. But I think it's too early to back out right now. That's just.
Yeah, I was on the fence concerning Dundee Elementary School and really thought about it. And then I also thought about why the voters, put me where I am to be able to look out for the voters and what the voters need. The first thing is that part of the school district property is the park right now. I don't want to see that disappear or be sold. I think the community would come unglued. So we need to watch that. The second part of this is that if you go over to Beaverton area, they have 2 schools over there that are fully packed. They're old elementary schools. Once these buildings leave, they will not come back.
Correct.
And Dundee has been like, sometimes they feel like the stepchild of Newburgh, even though we're a district and we're all together and we all share the same tax money. So this is a chance for them to have a community center. But I think that we need to look outside the box too. Don talked about, well, maybe it won't sell, maybe it will. I don't hold it at all against the city council there, maybe wanting to put it in a hotel or whatever. They'd like to have that tax money and so on. But it would be interesting to hear from the constituents of Dundee area whether they'd like to have a community center. I mean, we're all elected officials and we want this and we want that, but I wonder what the community over there feels. So I think that we need to keep an open mind, and maybe we can look at sharing parts of that. So I think that we need to look outside the box and not just totally close it off. But I don't disagree with some of the folks here that said, hey, this isn't part of your plan. You didn't look at this as your 5 top priorities. I get that. But when things are dropped in your lap, not unlike what we just talked about, the plan for Crystal Riley, it'll change. Things change. And do we look away from that, or we look forward and we look after the folks that we serve? So that's my soapbox on this. And yes, it will cost us in maintenance. That is for sure. But again, we were elected by our constituents to offer them recreational opportunities. And this one we may be able to offer, because I can guarantee you if it goes away, it won't be offered again. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, and I just to add to that, I think the enticement was potentially
sure
with ARPA funds and with a great need for the daycare in the community. If it's something that you can get multiple parties involved, multiple funding sources, it makes sense. That doesn't appear to have happened, and so I think
well, it may.
It's well, I guess it's.
It just depends on the entities that are involved.
Right, anything is possible, but without something like that, I don't think that it's financially feasible.
But if there's ways to potentially look at seeing whether or not the school district would sell the park to us, since we're already taking care of the park, there may be some other possibilities there, that the front piece could be a hotel or whatever, but there's still a park right there, and there's something for the community. I know that we have the Sanders Estate right across the street, but that'd be super cool to have it be a little bit bigger, a bigger green space for the people of Dundee.
Yeah.
The board members know where that line is across the park?
Yeah.
You folks know where that
Vaguely,
property?
yeah. Seen the map, but yeah.
Based on the conversations that we've had with the school district, they intend to see that the park is left there, that not be sold. If the property is sold, that would remain. Now, that's my understanding. I'm not holding anybody to anything. I'm just stating, and Julie, you and Casey's been involved with the conversations. Is that your understanding?
That's my understanding.
And we've been led to believe that. So we're going on that assumption.
Yeah, my understanding was, it was really, the line was
Right.
the parking lot, and the parking lot was not included in the purchase price if they were to sell that space.
That's correct.
So the parking lot stays with the park. That was my understanding.
That's
Now, my question is, did we ever get any response from the county? Did anybody ever reach out to the county?
I did not hear anything. I did watch the meeting where the suggestion by Joya was to award the money to different organizations, but I haven't heard anything. I did hear from Joya, who suggested that, and she is the economic development manager for Yamhill County. She did send me an email asking me to get in touch with somebody that could provide childcare at the Sanders estate across the street, but that was it.
Okay,
Yes, I don't know if that's been awarded. I don't know. I haven't heard anything from them.
okay.
My understanding is the timeframe's passed, so.
Well,
Yeah.
actually, it was unclear as to whether that time frame was actually 24 or whether it was actually 23.
Oh,
So there could be 12 more months that they have to figure this out. So, and that's what I understood while I was in a meeting initially, because they were unclear as to what the real date was. So they may not have handed those funds out to anybody. So I guess for now, we should just let it ride.
That would be my recommendation, even though if we don't come up with some funding, I would not recommend purchasing. I'm just going on record as saying that because I'm not sure where the funds would come from.
Sure.
I think we could do it, but in doing it, we would eliminate a lot of other projects that you've already agreed.
Or more.
And
Or put them
I
on.
think it would be bad to go back and do that, but there may be a time when you'll make that decision.
Well, I'm not opposed. Do we need a vote to simply say, let's just keep
Nope,
going the way we are?
you don't
Okay.
need a vote. We'll just keep on going till
Okay.
it's time for a vote.
okay. Okay, reports and comments from board members. I'll start here and then we'll go down. So
All right.
Lisa, you're up first.
First, I'd like to say I was playing disc golf at Ewing, and it looks great. It's wet, but it looks really great, so thank you, guys. A few trees problems, but that's everywhere. And then the Cultural Center, somebody mentioned it earlier, they have started construction. They're working initially on the grand staircase to go up to the second floor, and then we'll start working on the theater and the dance movement studio. I think they're anticipating that it should be done in July or August so that we can have some kind of a grand opening at that point. So,
Okay.
I got two things really quick. One is I noticed, as I read through the packet, that we're having a problem with our big bus. I remember purchasing that bus and what the cost of that bus was initially. I don't know what the problem is, but I know those buses are not always easy to fix and get back. So it might behoove us, because the cost of the buses now, I have no idea how expensive they are. We might want to look at leasing for our trips and not buying, but it's just an idea. And the other thing, and I talked to Casey about it, is when I was working on the Cultural Center back in the day and doing those first two phases, we had sucked out the insulation in the attic because we had to meet FEMA guidelines for seismic, and we had to put shear walls in, so all that was on the second floor on the ceiling was sheetrock, which I stepped through once, but that aside, we sucked all that insulation out, so my recommendation is I'm hoping that we look to put that back in to save us on energy costs. So,
Okay. I have nothing.
I was unable to make it to the pickleball meeting on Monday, but my understanding is that there was presented some sort of a plan. I think my question on that is the same thing that Lisa asked about the Riley master plan. This is a in-process thing where we will have room to feedback and work with it. Okay. At what point are we expecting this to start gaining traction? When are we going to be seeing like real plans? Are we going to have any discussion on what goes into the real master plan?
Well, here's
The process will be, we will first budget. We're getting those budget estimates now. Once we budget it and it's approved, then we can put the specifications and the material together. That will tell us what we can and can't do. And we will work with the committee in coming up with that. Our intention right now is to at least budget for the 6 courts
Well, resurface the tennis
and
courts that are there.
resurface the tennis courts at the same time. The reason for doing that is there's a big savings on resurfacing and doing it all at the same time rather than doing each one separate. So there's a big savings there.
So, and I know we discussed this, sorry to interrupt, but the resurfacing, the tennis courts of, you know, just putting a new layer on top hasn't
Not a layer.
ever lasted.
No.
Actually
Re-asphalt.
redoing them. Okay.
Redo.
We're
Just-
redoing, at the same time constructing the others.
Yeah.
We're taking the top off.
And then he was saying the word pole barn. Is that the standard construction for covering
They have air structures, they have,
Because we're not
Similar to
talking
what's
we're
in
not
George
talking
Fox.
enclosed. We're
we're
talking
not
covered.
enclosing it, no.
Right.
We just want to cover it, put lights in it.
Yeah.
There are soundproofing materials
Uh-huh.
available now that we can wrap around so it doesn't disturb the neighborhood.
Okay.
Although we haven't had any complaints from Jaquith at all on noise.
Will this be lockable, so it won't be the new party place?
Depends on the height of the fence. It's a public facility. I mean,
I'm
it should-
talking about at nighttime and
Yeah,
such.
the park's closed.
We don't lock anything in the parks.
Okay. Do we not lock the tennis courts?
Nope.
No.
No?
I
Okay.
think we'll be looking at it though, I'm sure. But Gail, the segue on what you said though, is that, we did put $400,000 for the pickleball in this year's budget.
Yeah.
So my interest is in, because I really want to move this forward, is to maybe work on some of the planning, engineering, and so on, once we get all the committees done and so on and so forth, so we can move in to the next year. So just a recommendation.
So, yeah. Well, I'm actually working with a couple companies right now.
There you go.
I have one more question on it. What's the deal with the horseshoe pits? We're keeping the horseshoe pits.
No.
We're not keeping the horseshoe
We're
pits?
keeping part of them.
Or can we move them
We-
to another location?
We're gonna have to figure out the parking requirements. So
Okay.
we've identified a parking area. Whether it's enough is a big question.
I think the horseshoe pits would make a great parking lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if we have to go there, then that's where we go.
I would,
But there's a shelter on the other portion, right? So you don't want to take up too
So,
much.
I would like to add that those horseshoe pits, they may not be used now, but at one time, they were used heavily.
But those people
A
are all
lot
dead.
a lot of gentlemen in this community spent a lot of time building those things, and they may come out of the woodworks if you try to remove them. You may be surprised. You know, things, people are, they don't forget. Of course, a lot of them are dead.
Yeah,
Right,
but a perfect
exactly.
example of that was
Yeah.
the
Yes.
Hoover disc golf course.
Yeah.
When we put up new signage and wanted to put
Yeah.
new baskets in, the people who designed it the first time, or you know, the
Oh,
they were so upset that there was any improvement to it.
Yeah.
So I mean, be prepared.
You mean
The
people should be
horseshoe
upset about
pit-
decisions we make? I don't believe it. Julie,
I was just gonna say that, when the tennis courts are resurfaced, we will also add 12 pickleball courts within where the 4 tennis courts are going to be.
Two of the tennis courts will be marked off. 2 will not.
Yeah, exactly. And then we'll have the 6. So I think that the committee this week was very excited about that number, and that will definitely offer us the opportunity to hold tournaments there.
That's 14 courts, I mean.
And so, they did ask about the horseshoe pits. I will add that, out of respect, Don, I totally respect you, but I've never seen anybody play horseshoes out there, and I spent a lot of time out there. I understand your thought behind that, but I think that would really offer us a lot of parking. The other thing is that, we have at least 50 softball and baseball games in Newburgh from 1st of March to the end of October. And they park on the main street side of Jakewith Park. And I don't know if you've ever been out there on a Saturday or Sunday, but they park absolutely everywhere on the grass, and I think it would really offer a lot of parking for those activities as well. So
I think that the terminology, I want to be clear, because I've heard terminology go different ways.
yeah,
We are not resurfacing those tennis courts, is my understanding. We're reconstructing
That's correct.
those
Right.
tennis
So
courts
right.
because of the failure of
four
the asphalt
courts.
and so on underneath, and bringing in a geotech to fix it up. And the second thing is I think with the horseshoe courts, and I was here, Don, when those guys were building that. I remember them, and they were definitely they were like today's pickleball
yeah.
back then, in a
Yes.
big way.
Yeah.
And so,
They
but,
were big
but I
time.
think we might be able to work to move those to another part of that park, maybe in the corner and the fences over there. So it's just
Horseshoe
something to look at.
multi-generational?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Horseshoe is multi-generational, I just wanted to put that
If
out
your
there.
kid can pick up a horseshoe, he can throw it.
There you go.
Hopefully not at you.
Okay, well,
And I'm sorry, one more comment regarding parking. As we are developing or outlining parking spaces, I have a comment on how the pool is set up. And that is that the compact spaces are furthest away from the pool, which means that people park their compact cars closer to the pool, and the compact spaces are the ones that are left over. And for people who drive big girl cars, it just needs to be backwards. Just put the compact ones closer. That way, that's where people want to park anyway, and that way the bigger spots are left.
I'm
It just-
gonna
it-
let
it-
Jim take that one.
You know, that parking, I went back and forth with the city for it was intense. And we change it, then we've got another issue maybe with the city doing that. So I don't disagree with you, but I don't know if we can do that.
Mind what I know, is that what you're saying?
What?
Keep my nose where what I know.
No, I think it's
I
a
thought
good.
you
I think it's a good
parked
suggestion. I made a lot of great suggestions to the city, and it didn't work out as far as parking.
I can second what you're saying, because when I did take my truck there, all the close spaces, which were big enough for the truck, are gone. And then the small spaces in the back, and I had to do like the Austin Powers 37-point turn to get out. So
You mean parking by Braille?
it was kind of
Hopefully
like
not
that.
by
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you, if we make any changes anywhere, we can't have less spaces
Right.
than we have.
I'm talking about Jakewith. I have made my peace with.
Oh, you're talking about Jakewith?
I'm not talking about the pool.
Oh,
Pool
good.
is
I thought you were
beautiful.
talking about the pool.
No, I'm talking about Jakewith. Pool is done deal. I don't want to see it change.
Everybody hear that?
But we're talking about
Put
Jakewith.
those trucks where they belong, and the other cars where they belong.
I don't mind if I have to hike, because I know I have to hike based on the size of my car. I don't mind if I have to hike, but just let me hike.
Good point.
Okay, Jason, you were last. Nothing to say.
Well, it's because my item's coming up here on the paddle launch. It's coming up
Okay.
soon.
Okay, well, paddle launch. Any updates on that?
None. Do
we-
you have anything?
I have a question. So do we have a person that is the point guard besides somebody on the board? Is there anybody, or are you guys wanting us to lead this?
I think it was Bart who was very, very, very involved as a board member. I don't even know if there was a paddle launch committee. I don't think there was. There was just some interested people, and then, yeah, so we would need to create that committee.
Well, I'm not worried about having another committee. Really, the only thing that I'm interested in is knowing who is taking the lead for this project. And are you guys waiting for either myself or Matt to do this, which I'm happy to do. I just didn't know if you guys were doing anything beyond what we had done.
We talked about the paddle launch being in different locations.
Yes.
There is renewed interest in relocating it where it originally was. But I don't know totally. We should probably follow up on that. It's not a bad site. It's an excellent site.
It's a better site. I'm just
And-
going
It's
to
a,
be.
yeah.
And
Is it better than the 53-acre site?
Yes, as far as launching and everything.
yeah.
And it's safer.
Yeah.
But again, I will follow up and have a report at the February meeting for that.
Because the reason why I'm asking this is because I do want to make sure that we take care of our bicyclists. I do want to provide a spot, and the paddle launch and the place for the mountain bikers. This is something that we can provide, regardless whether we actually make that a paddle launch space. I'm talking about the 53 acres. So I just want to make sure that somebody is moving forward with trying to find out, is this a possibility? Because the last time we've gone to meetings, it seems like the parks voted unanimously that we should probably take this over.
But
Do we need to go and ask
what
them then?
I will do,
And I will talk to a county commissioner tomorrow, or Saturday.
all right, and I will have John get with legal counsel and bring them up to date
Okay.
on the workings and the agreements that we have submitted to the county concerning that,
Okay,
and then go from there.
Okay.
okay, super.
And I will give that to not only, I'll ask John to give it to legal counsel, and then I will forward it to the board.
Super.
There's the third location, which is adjacent to the, has there been any updates on that potential?
No,
Okay.
no
And is there any
update.
time frame on that? Because it seemed like it was moving along for a moment.
What I have done, you and I went out with the developer, we walked the property, we looked at it. What I did is go back and investigate and find out. We met with the city of Newburgh and the planner to find out what was going up there. And again, it's not anywhere near being finalized, and we will meet with them again at the appropriate time, but right now it's way too early.
Okay.
But there was some situations, if you remember, the discussion was that they would give us the property down there. In return, we would
SDC waiver.
the SDC waiver. Based on what I've been told, not what I know, that may not work because the property may not be worth that, and there'll have to be an alteration in that. What I would probably propose, and I'll work with the developer, is that they give us that property for nothing. And I'll work with them and pay the SDCs like they normally do, and we'll take the SDCs and use it for development.
The reason
Yeah.
I'm interested in the Dundee is we already put the infrastructure in there. We ran the power down there, that's all there. We have a road down there, it's there. We have an entrance down there. Once you mess with that embankment, no matter where you're looking to put this paddle launch, you're talking Department of Lands, you're talking Fish and Game, you're talking Corps of Engineers. So what we have is already there. If we could get that, great. If we can't, I get it, but just keep that in mind, because those are some things we have to think about.
Okay.
And there's nothing to say that we can't put a boat launch or a paddle launch in two different spots on the river. As a matter of fact, we may put it on 3 spots on the river. There is always a lack of launching areas and stuff. And, but again, we'll work with the Marine Board in securing the finances by which to do that.
Okay.
That will take time.
Okay, now, do we have a representative from the Trail Committee to present today, or I'm not sure if...
Committees are on the agenda, that's why I was asking.
Yeah, no,
No,
they
okay.
will do it in February,
Okay. I
at the
just wanted to-
February meeting.
Wanted to make sure I didn't skip over them properly. Okay,
That's my understanding, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
okay. And then, superintendent's report?
The only thing I'll tell the board is if you, probably in February, you'll have.
Recording stopped.
Richard, you need to turn that back on.
Richard, can you get it on?
Yeah, we're fine. It's just a local recording.
Thank you.
All right. We will submit to you out of the contingency, will not increase the budget, but out of the contingency will increase part-time work in the Parks Department. But I'll lay that out for you and explain why. And then the other thing, it was discussed tonight, the contingency fund has always been roughly 150,000, if I remember correctly. And this year it was 1.5 million. So we've got tons of contingency. And the reason I mention that is if we go over, I think it's 5%, you have to call the budget committee back together. If you don't go over that 5%, you can do it by resolution and the board can do it. And that's what I'm shooting for, is for you to stay within that 5% and do that, so that we don't have to go back and do a big drawn-out meeting.
And what is this in, you're just telling us we want to stay in the budget, or I'm not sure I understand what you're saying?
Right. The next board meeting will give you an SDC.
Okay.
I mean, a resolution.
Okay.
That will ask you to increase the park funding for part-time. And again, in discussion, because we'll put on the agenda about the Booster Club, we could throw that 50,000 into that contingency too. But I'll talk to you about that and make a recommendation at that time.
And the part-time part, that's just maintenance worker?
Right.
Okay.
Correct.
Gotcha. Okay, anything else?
That's it.
Okay, staff, any updates? Brian, you got anything exciting going?
I'm good, no, nothing,
Okay.
everything's in the board pack.
Ice, trees falling, that kind of thing. I did take a little hike around
What'd you
the
say,
golf
trees?
course,
Yeah.
and it was during the ice, actually. I don't know what got in
I don't
me, but,
recommend you do that.
It was actually a really fun hike, and a few
It is
trees
cool,
fell,
I like it.
and they were cleared out, and it was really,
Appreciate
really
that.
kind of a cool.
We did have an issue at, no serious damage or anything like that,
Spring
but
Meadow?
our Spring Meadow Park that is adjacent to the new development that's over there across from the hospital or whatever.
Yeah.
It's our oldest park, actually. They have some really tall Doug firs that are in that forest area we own there. One fell closest to the park,
Right
in the
towards
direction of the
Mike's
homes.
house.
It's about a 100-some-odd foot tree. Fortunately, missed. It was within 15 feet of a.
That was on our property, though. It was our
Yeah,
tree.
perfectly healthy tree, but unfortunately, just like you see on the news and stuff, but nobody was hurt. And we've since evaluated that. I just got done. I've been doing it several days now, walking with our arborist that whole forest area there. And there are several other trees that have been identified that are definitely hazardous. Unfortunately, with the relationship we have with this arborist that we've had over decades or so, that they'll be there even tomorrow as soon to start cleaning that up in there. But and then there was a large one on the back of the Getman Trail that fell down, and
Staff took care of
but we took care of that one staff-wise.
Yeah. All right, good stuff. Casey, you got anything?
Just working on Sandra Estate, bringing the engineers and the landscape architects back together to put the master plan so that we can submit it for the type 1 land use, so we can get going on that. And ask the city of Dundee for urban renewal funds.
And it's still focused on the sidewalk improvements and the piping?
The road improvements,
and the
yeah.
road?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we need a actual engineer to get the estimate to do the roadway improvements and stuff, because there's a lot of work there. We're gonna get the pool balanced and then see what happens. We're still working on the bypass trail. We have 90% plans done. So that's the bridge and Industrial Avenue and the maintenance trail down to and up to 11. Which reminds me, I gotta call the police department about some homeless people living under the bypass and Wynooski bridges that can't be seen from anywhere.
Hey, Casey, where are we at on the heating system for the pool?
That's what I just mentioned.
Oh.
They're gonna balance it and then try it out, and we'll see what happens.
Has it been repaired or
Yeah,
replaced?
it's been repaired. It's just everything. We had a compressor go out earlier. We were waiting for some relays. It's an Italian, it's like a Ferrari,
Yeah.
and it costs about the same, and it has the same problems.
So are we still trying to get that thing, what do you call it, what is it? Commissioned?
Yeah.
I thought the last time we talked about this, that was not, like you were gonna like force them to put a whole new system in or something.
Well, I'm not gonna force them to do anything. We're gonna try this out and show them it doesn't work, and then they're gonna have to do something.
Okay.
Because we lost the air pressure in that building, you know, basically that door used to close all the time, we had the right air pressure, we don't now. I don't know if you know that. So
I
negative air
was
pressure.
there this morning and they showed me the air pressure, and that can be
Something's
taken
going
care
on.
of.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's just little things that
Yes.
fail that cause that. Little actuators that open and close dampers, and
Right.
it is a few years old now, Jim. Like Lisa mentioned, the cultural center, they opened up a can of worms today by the looks of it. They opened the floor on the upper section and found pipes and sprinkler systems and ductwork on the floor that they were supposed to put a steel beam across, so we're gonna have a meeting Monday regarding that. That's underneath the old restroom. Jim's smiling because he knows something we don't. What else? Heritage Trails land use, we're still working on that. Rennie Field conversion. John sent me one yesterday that they want to give us 20 years, which is fine, and Don's in agreement with that. There's some other verbiage in there, and along with that comes the city's going to require some street improvements to Blaine Street and to 9th Street. So along with that 1.5 million, we're going to get stuck with some other stuff. So we want to make sure that if they cancel the agreement, that they're going to have to pay us back for a portion of that. There is also urban renewal funds available for that we can apply from the city for. So perhaps we can get some of that paid for.
We will.
But with this process, you don't envision that delaying it so we don't get started this spring or summer, right?
I don't know. The school district.
We're not gonna delay it.
School district attorney is not. I mean, I gave John that direction back in November. In December, they held a meeting. December 12th, the school district board decided what they wanted to do, and they wanted to change the contract. And I just reminded John after Christmas, please reach back out to her and see if we can get this done. And then it was another 2 weeks before she replied to him. And so I can't rush them into anything. They're on their own time.
It's the attorney for the school district is. Matter of fact, I saw a deal where she was on vacation, and those type things happen. But we're pushing as hard as we can.
I was hoping to have something for this meeting tonight, but.
I don't know if this board has approved the 20 years really yet. I mean, you'll need to-
You have not.
You'll have to bring
You
that
have
back.
not.
And the second
Yes.
thing is that I am concerned about, because of what happened with the pool and the cost that occurred due to the city wanting these improvements, I am concerned a little bit on what they're gonna ask us to do on those streets. And so whether it
Well,
be
you know-
sidewalk, parking.
You know what they're gonna do.
I know,
They're
and so,
gonna- That's a
but-
major,
But
it's a major
let
connector.
me say this, when we did the urban renewal, we specifically put Blaine Street in there with the idea that we gave up millions of dollars on an annual basis. The city should recomp that with this Blaine Street because they can pay it out of urban renewal. So we will harp on that and push it.
But so there is a possibility then the 750,000 that we approved could blossom to 2 million or
Well,
more for whatever these, and why is it us and not the school district? It's their property. We're donating $750,000 to do their field. Why are we taking on the responsibility of the improvements?
What was our project?
Well, yeah.
It is our project. I mean,
We can always go back.
Yeah.
The superintendent did mention that they may have some extra
He did,
funds
but
and they may pitch in. I don't know how much that is, but he did mention that. So again, we won't, like all projects, we won't know until it's bid out. We just flat won't know. And like with the cultural center, if you remember, it was gonna be 5 million, it came in at 4.
Yeah.
So, let's hope this comes in lower than what we can hope for. But again, we expected to spend more than 750,000 regardless.
But I just want to be clear for the public that's listening right now that part of the city of Newburgh really needs that type of recreational amenity, which they don't have. All the amenities are on the other side of 99. And so I would assume that the city, as well as the school district, are going to work hand in hand with us to be able to offer this to the citizens that live in our community. So I just wanted to say that publicly.
And the primary funding source for this is SDCs because it's a new development. And again, if we cut SDCs, we don't have the money to do these type projects.
Okay, you got anything else?
I think I'm done.
Okay. Okay, last but not least,
All
Julie?
right. I think I just wanted to mention a couple things. The aquatic center on Saturday, we're going to be having what they call a Saturday sampler, and that's when anybody in the community can visit the aquatic center and try any fitness class that we offer. So I think there are 10 to 12 of them, and so we just offer people the opportunity to come in and try them out. So if you get a chance, swing on by.
Are you saying even we're invited?
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
absolutely.
I'll be
you
darned.
I think you have a membership, but
Oh, no.
but that's great. The other thing I wanted to mention is that we have been contacted by the city of Carlton. And Jim, you might have some information.
So what was that?
So we have been contacted by the city of Carlton, and they have asked us to run or manage the Carlton outdoor pool.
Are you asking me to comment?
Yes. So anyway, we're communicating, I should say, with the city. And from what I understand, we used to run it, correct?
Correct.
Kind of before my time, we used to run it, and they were in charge of maintenance and, you know, chemicals and all that kind of stuff. And then we just managed the pool. Lifeguards, swim lessons, public swim, all those
So
kinds of
just
activities.
staff, we're
Yeah.
not, okay.
And programming, essentially.
Are you asking for my opinion, or?
I heard, I've already heard your opinion, but I would like to hear it from you.
No, I think the pool at Carlton's amazing.
Yeah.
I think that outdoor pool is great.
Yeah.
I really do. But one of the things that keeps coming back at us is, and we have a lot larger facility here in Newburgh,
Correct.
in Carlton's not in our district. Do we have the staff to be able to manage those two properties?
Right.
Because, give you an example, our supervisor's gonna have to maybe drive from Newburgh to Carlton and check on the staff there and come back. So those are things I'm sure that you're thinking about.
Right.
I think it's an amazing facility for Carlton out there.
Right.
I took my kids there when they were little because it was an outdoor pool.
Yeah.
But again, I think we need to make sure that we have enough staff here in our district for our big facility that we have now before we look at that. And I'm sure you'll do your due diligence on that.
Yeah. And it's, you know, we're budgeting right now, so it's a perfect time to get that information from the city, and if we need to.
But again, it's a manpower issue,
Implement it.
and we need to either make some money on it
Right.
or break even on it.
Right.
We're not gonna break even if we can't,
Yeah, we won't do it if we.
yeah, no
I
way.
just need to make that statement.
Yeah.
But, I mean, do we have to have any other conversation about that if it's out of, because it's not in our district, right?
Correct. Yeah, we're just gathering information now. I just wanted to mention it to you.
Yeah.
You know, in case or when it comes up. The other thing I wanted, in terms of the aquatic center, the expenses versus the revenue, I just kind of wanted to bring attention to the management at the aquatic center, but because the revenue is up, you know, $65,000 versus expenses, and that's, I think, unheard of. Correct, Jim?
For a pool, yeah.
So they're really hustling, and
that's even with the high electric cost to heat.
Yeah, it's all utilities. The only thing it doesn't include
That's all utilities.
it doesn't include the maintenance personnel, but it does include everything else.
Right.
So it's like, I think we did the right thing by that building.
It's one of the few in the country. There's not many. I mean, we're talking about the United States.
yeah, that
As long as
staff
all the
is,
systems work right.
We're way ahead.
yeah, that staff is really hustling over there. Very, very impressed with them and the opportunities that they're providing people. You know, doing a lot of outside the box thinking.
With that said, I noticed that the fire riser was having an issue, that we don't have it, or it's. I mean, when I read through here that they're missing, that they had it out to have it repaired. Is there?
Fire what?
The fire riser
The
is not
fire
working correctly.
engine.
What about the fire truck?
No, I think they
truck
talked about in here the fire riser. So if you could check on that, I'd appreciate it. I understand the
see
fire
it.
engine.
Yeah, I think it's the fire.
Then they might have said it
engine.
wrong.
Yeah.
If it's the riser,
No, it can't be the riser.
that's a big issue.
She's talking
That's a
about the
big
fire.
issue.
Yeah.
We are looking at, we have a meeting next Monday with a company called Vortex, because they did pull the fire truck out. And so we're working on getting something in that space that's not as big and large and that's aquatic friendly. So working on that. And with sports, it's basketball. We have almost 800 teams, which is just, or I'm sorry, 880. 800 kids, 80 teams. That's incredible for a community this size. So that's great. Recreation, we have gymnastics going, esports. We had cookies and cocoa with Santa in Dundee. That was a big hit. And I wanted to mention that our care department, we have doubled the number of kids that are attending care at almost every school. At Edwards Elementary, for example, we have 55 kids, and that is double. And so all of our Crater, Dundee, Edwards, Ewan Young, Joanne, Austin, and Mabel, at Mabel Rush, we have 46 kids. And that is almost double what we've had in the past. So they are also out there hustling and really, doing great things for our community.
Thank you.
And one last thing, if I could, and I want to get out of here just like everybody else, but you're all public figures, and it could come up, someone's going to come up to you. So there's going to be some changes at Memorial Park that the city is doing, and all of us in this room might not be aware of that. We own from the restrooms over to Fifth Street. Public safety, the city owns up to the restrooms, which includes a very large redwood tree, several oak trees. And so they're going to be expanding the police department's parking lot that's going there. They're sending out this is sooner than later, they're sending out their notices this week to surrounding neighbors and the public to let them know that they're taking down all those trees that are within their footprint that are there. So a lot of the public might not understand, you might be stopped and said, hey, what are we doing in the park there or whatever. But this is the city's property, and that's what they're doing there. The gazebo will come down, that's their gazebo. It's dry rotted or whatever. We will hang on to the bicycle thing that's on the top there that represents Old Fashioned, and we'll relocate that in the park, and I'm working directly with the chairman of the Old Fashioned Festival there. And then there's also a really nice plaque that's next to a camellia there, a stone monument that we will relocate in the park also. But, just FYI. In case you have any comments on that.
There's a lot of people, you remember when they were doing Villa Road and they took down those 2 huge white oaks?
Yep.
And that was a huge issue for the community.
They're gonna get some feedback about it.
Again,
That's a beautiful
just
tree.
comment real quick, because the city owns the entire park.
Yeah, they do.
We contract
Right.
to
We
maintain the park,
lease.
just to be clear, so
Right.
people don't think that we own it, because
So
we
they
don't
can
own
take
it.
the whole park down, you're absolutely right.
But darn it, we do own it because we've maintained it for 100
Well,
years, so it's,
There's a whole, that's a whole discussion there too.
there you go.
We insure it, let's put it that way.
Yep.
And we pay for the water, and we make.
You make it beautiful.
Okay, well, I think we are at the end of our agenda, so I'm going to go ahead and adjourn.
Do you want your pen back?